Friendship War, Chapter 14, Halfsies. It's Saturday afternoon, and I'm going on a button hunt with Hank. Dad likes Hank. They're both into numbers, and also materials. The science of what stuff is made of. My dad has been a Hank fan ever since that day in fourth grade when he started talking about a strand of spider silk and how it's 5 times stronger than a strand of steel, that it's the same thickness, and that Kelber is stronger than either of them. My dad knew that already, but still, he was very impressed. Then Hank began talking about the specific gravity of 3 different materials and the way their molecules link up. And when Hank told him how some butterfly wings get their strength and flexibility from their weird structures called gyroids, the seals that sealed the deal. Hank and Dad became science buddies. Today's adventure with Hank got started yesterday at lunch when that girl Sarah and 3 other kids were lined up to see if I wanted to trade any of my fancy buttons. I told Hank how I was looking to get some larger buttons, and that they didn't have to be special like the pinwheel, just big and sort of interesting, of course. So Hank became my button trading advisor. I left the cafeteria for more large buttons, or left the cafeteria with 4 more large buttons, 3 made of celluloid, and a dark green beauty with carvings on it made of bakelite. Because of Hank, I only had to trade away 5 of my smaller specialty buttons. Out in the hallway, just before I headed for math and Hank went toward the gym, he said, I've got an idea about where we might be able to find some good buttons to collect, or to trade, whichever. Interested? My favorite thing about what Hank said, he used the word we, one of the friendliest words ever. Of course, I was interested, and Hank told me this idea, and I liked it. And that's why I'm climbing into the back seat of his mom's car. Hi, Hank. Hi, Mrs. Powell. Hi, Grace. I don't think I've seen you since the open house at school last October. You've gotten taller. I never know how to answer when grown ups say stuff like that. Hank looks sideways at his mom. Kind of an obvious thing to say, Mom. It's been almost a year. Grace wouldn't be shrinking, would she? Just making friendly conversation, Henry. It's Hank. Mrs. Powell backs the car out of our driveway, and as she starts forward, her eyes find me in the rearview mirror. Hank says that you're the one who started this button fad at school, and he told us about the other things you found at that old textile mill in Maine. It was in Massachusetts, Mom. Sorry, Massachusetts. Did you ever imagine kids would get so interested in buttons? Because some people find them absolutely fascinating. Very funny, Mom. Hank turns so he can see me from the front seat. So, you brought some money. $15. How about you? About the same. That ought to be enough. Except there's no guarantee that we can find any buttons for sale. I hunted around online for places that run estate sales for families, which is how I found 3 shops that we're going to try first. Mrs. Powell takes a quick look at Hank. 3 shops? I thought we were going to one store in Sheridan Grove, which is already a 20-minute drive. It's practically in Wisconsin. Why don't we just go to nice antique shops? Maybe in Clifton Woods. Because the people who run antique shops charge high prices. We're looking for a bargain. So we're going to thrift shops. And Sheridan Grove is nowhere near Wisconsin. Drive is like 40 more minutes, and Mrs. Powell is not happy, especially when we arrive at the address Hank gave her. Carrie's Thrift Barn? This place looks pretty run down. It'll be fine, Mom. Come on, Grace, let's go. And he opens the car door. Wait, you're not going in there by yourselves? Fine, but let us go first. And when you come in, keep away from us, okay? The look on her face. Her feelings are hurt, and right away Hank says, Sorry, that sounded bad. All I mean is, look like you've got plenty of money, because you do, and people who look that way don't get bargains at places like this. She stares at Hank. How do you know things like that? Research. I've been to tons of garage sales with my mom, but this is the first ever inside a thrift store. It's a big place with a low ceiling, and there are three or four women, with some alone and some with kids, walking up and down the long aisles, picking things off racks, putting them back, and sometimes holding shirts or coats or dresses up against their kids to see what might fit. I spot a couple guys too. A lot of the clothes are really nice. Even Ellie would like some of the tops and skirts I look at. And then it strikes me. Some of these might have actually been Ellie's before she got tired of them and jetted over to London or Paris for all new ones. But that's a mean thought, and I shove it away. Ellie is not going to poison my Saturday. The front door chimes, and Hank's mom walks in, starts wandering around, trying to avoid us. Hank was right. His mom does not look like the other shoppers here. Over there, Hank says, and he points at a hand-lettered sign hanging on a string from the ceiling. Estate sales. New arrivals. The stuff below the sign is mostly still in cardboard moving boxes, and a lot of them have been written on with markers. Labels like family room, downstairs bedroom, and basement. The boxes are spread around on the floor, with the flaps open and the contents jumbled. I know that I'm looking at leftovers from the lives of other people, other families, and I can't help but feel a little sad. Not Hank. His mind is like a laser beam. You check that bunch over there, and I'll start over here with this group, okay? Got it. Kitchen utensils, board games, puzzles, toys, clothes, plates and bowls, and glasses, purses, hand tools, shoes and boots, sheets and towels, so much stuff. And looking for buttons feels like hunting for a quarter on a soccer field, which is something I've done before, unsuccessfully. But I begin to see the pattern. See the way this house was organized? There were two bathrooms, probably one upstairs and one downstairs, because there are two boxes of bathroomy stuff. And there was definitely a family room because four boxes have that label. Duh. And I keep trying to think, if this were my house and I had some sewing stuff, where would I keep it? And as I'm thinking this, out in the middle of 8 or 10 boxes, I spot a flap with the label downstairs hall closet. I have to kind of wade out to it, trying not to step inside any boxes. And once I'm there, I know I'm getting warmer. The downstairs hall closet was definitely the catch all of this house, the place to stick whatever doesn't belong anywhere else. At our house, there's a drawer in the kitchen like that, and also the utility closet in the laundry room, plus half the basement. There are actually 3 boxes of stuff from this closet, and in the second one, I find a basket. It's the sewing stuff, and it's not a big basket, only about 6 inches across and 4 inches deep. And down the bottom, I see some buttons, maybe 20, mostly small and mostly white. Dead end. There are several bundles of folded fabric in the box. Some of the cloth is so old that it's sort of yellowed, almost brittle. But I spot a deep blue fabric with yellow ducks painted on it. And when I lift it out to get a better look, underneath there's a large round cookie tin with a snowy winter scene on the lid and written on the top with a green marker, one word, buttons. About an hour later, we're back at Hank's house in the basement playroom with at least 2,000 buttons spread out across a ping pong table. We only went to that one thrift shop after all, which made his mom happy. And for now, we've got plenty of new buttons to mess with. Hank says, first, I think we should sort them all by what they're made of, okay? Sure, that makes sense. I can tell Hank really wants to be in charge of the sorting process, which is fine by me. He sticks pieces of masking tape at different places on the table and starts writing on each one with Sharpie. Okay, so celluloid buttons go here, and then bakelite and lucite and vegetable ivory, china. Vegetable ivory? What's that? It's an ivory substitute made from the nut of the tigwood palm tree, which grows in the tropics. Oh, And lucite? That's a kind of clear, hard plastic. Yeah, so china, glass, mother of pearl, leather, bone, and wood. You don't mean like actual bone? Yeah, sometimes antlers were used, but mostly cow bones. He scans a whole batch of buttons and reaches out and picks one up. Wow, I didn't think we'd have any of these, but check it out. This is bone. He got a button about the size of a dime in his palm, sort of pale yellowish color, and there are two large holes, like the holes on a happy face. This was probably made by hand, maybe as far back as 1850. See how the holes are uneven? That's how you can tell this one wasn't made on a machine. And if you looked at it through a strong magnifying glass lens, you could see the lines in the bone where the blood used to flow, not smooth, like plastic. That kind of grosses me out. But the science is interesting. Buttons made of cow bones? Who knew? Hank Powell. That's who. The sorting goes pretty fast once I learn what to look for, and Hank's a good teacher. In no time at all, I can tell the difference between vegetable ivory and bakelite with my eyes shut, almost. Also, when Hank doesn't know something, he doesn't pretend he does, and I like that. He sort of keeps, or as we sort, he keeps stopping to search on the internet to be sure he's not messing up. And the sorting comes to the dividing. Hank says, "So, do you want to pick first, or should I?" I could tell he's nervous about this part. Our deal from the start was simple. Whatever we find, we go, halvesies. So I smile and say, "You should go first." Because I've already decided that Hank can have whatever buttons he wants. He's the one who's getting into collecting them. Plus, he thought up this whole plan. And it's not like I need any more buttons. At all. Ever. We take turns choosing from each group, one material after the other. I pick just enough of the nicer buttons of each kind so that Hank doesn't feel like I don't care. Because I know he wouldn't like that. Seeing his face get lit up about buttons, it's great. And it's sweet too, because he tries to make me take some of the ones that I can tell he's dying to keep. Are you sure you don't want this burgundy and ivory octagon? I mean, it's a classic two-tone bakelite. And like the carving and the edges, they're so crisp. Thanks, but I like the lighter colors. So sweet. An alarm bell goes off in my head because sweet is a word I don't use much, and I just used it twice in the past 30 seconds. So I take a careful look at Hank as he's trying to decide which mother of pearl buttons to choose first. I like what I see. I do. He's cute in a tallish, thin, awkwardish sort of way. Dark hair and eyes, straight nose, a mouth, and he smiles a lot. It's all nice. But mostly Hank looks smart. And that's mainly in his eyes, the way he's always got a question up there. I think he likes the way I look too, but I know that's not the reason why we're friends. We go back and forth, dividing up the pearly buttons, and then the glass, the china, the leather, the celluloid, and the bone. There are only 5 of the bone buttons, and I make Hank take them all for his collection. And then he says, I should get to keep the old container the buttons came in, because I'm the one who found it. Halvesies. After we're done, my mom comes and picks me up, and riding home with a cookie tin of buttons on my lap, I think about the afternoon. I also think about Ellie. On a regular Saturday during the school year, I'd have spent at least a couple hours with her. She'd have called and said something like, I'm going to go get some shoes. Want to come? Or, I feel like seeing in that new movie. Want to come? Because time with Ellie was mostly me tagging along while she does whatever she wants to. Still, I sort of miss that. But today was good. It was me, Hank, and a bunch of buttons. 3 different elements mixed together. When elements combine, they don't actually change, but they sometimes link up and form a new compound, the way hydrogen and oxygen join to make water. That's how this feels. And if I had to describe this new compound, it's 99% fun and 1%